Okay, I'm going to make this short. Hopefully this helps some people out. This is on a 2012 Lexus ct200h. Having intermittent issues with the wipers. They started running slow, and then they started to not work on any signal but high. So you put them on high, they would work, and then intermittently they'd work on different speeds. So I took the switch apart, the stock switch on the right side, and cleaned up all the contacts. On that switch assembly on the back side, if you take it apart carefully, they're not hard to take apart. You just got to make sure you don't break the tabs. You're going to see some grease in there. The grease gets on the back side of the circuit board. So on that switch, there's a cover that covers the back side of the stock switch, STALK, for your wipers. There's a back cover, covers the circuit board. Take that back cover off. There is a small screw that you have to remove to get that back cover off. And you'll see some of the grease, at least on mine, had gotten into the circuit board. and dirt had got in there, and it was causing cross-contamination in the circuit, right? I assume. Anyway, I cleaned it up, flipped it around, and then I opened up the other side of it, which gets you access to the inner assembly of the workings of the switch. And then I cleaned that all up, and then I reassembled it with some bulb grease. So there is no relay on a ct200h, as far as I can tell, for the wipers, because it's built into the wiper switch stock, right? And that's as far as I can go with it. I've done hours of research on this. I've called Lexus, and that's what they say. So there is a diagram that shows that there's a relay now in the center console. I didn't see it in mine. I tore mine apart. But I think if you have the rain sensor, and I don't even know if these came with a rain sensor. Mine doesn't have it. Now, how do you know if yours came with a rain sensors? It'll say automatic, AUTO, on the wiper assembly. If it says AUTO, you have a rain sensor. If there's a position for auto, you have a rain sensor for your wipers. And it's possible that your relay is inside the center console, buried. So if you don't, the relay is built into the switch. So that's not what I wanted to point out here. My issue was there's some contacts in the wiper motor. Okay, so if you take the wiper motor, you remove the cowling, and you take the wiper motor bolts out that mount it to the body. There's two of them, and you flip the wipe after you've removed everything else, right? There's videos on how to do that. But you get to the wiper motor, take the two bolts out, flip the wiper motor upside down, and you're going to see the wiper motor, and then you're going to have this kind of a circuit board housing. Okay, that housing has got little clips on it that if you're, and sealant, right? There's sealant around there. So you take the plug out, and then you lightly lift up on those clips, and you're going to need a couple of really small, flat eyeglass screwdrivers, and you're going to pry on this where the sealant is, and you're going to gently lift this up. You have to pull that cover straight up, because that cover is going to have two contacts that will go into the bottom part of the housing up on the cover, which is going to have some circuitry in it. And you're going to see something that kind of looks like a little A, okay? And that's going to be in the top cover. So if we're looking down on it and the wiper motor and assembly is upside down, when you pull that cover off, you're going to have something that looks like this that's pointing down, and then you're going to have two contacts that are pointing down that will engage for the bottom of this assembly. This appears to be a ground. Now what happened with mine is that it wasn't spread out far enough to actually make contact. You get it apart, you'll know. So the contact isn't made on the end of that piece, that ground piece. It's made on the side. And if you take a close look, you'll understand. You can see where it'll rub on the bottom of this housing, on the steel part. So what I did is I opened that up a little bit, right, so it'd make good contact for the ground, and then put some dielectric grease on the plug, put the plug back together, check the connections there, and then there's two female connectors here, and just make sure that those are tight, okay? And then put your cover back on, and try not to disturb your sealant, because you're going to be reusing it. Don't wipe it off and all that. Just take it apart. Don't put fingerprints all over it, and you can reuse it. Put it back together. Anyway, that's what I did, and then we greased up the armature, right? All the pivot points on the armature for the wiper motor. Used a waterproof bearing grease on that. Reassembled it, and we're working fine. Okay, so now while you have that off, the cowling, if you look up on the left side, passenger side, you're going to see a hole for your fresh air intake. Okay, if you get some aluminum gutter screen and you cut it 3.5 tall and 14 wide, you'll be able to stuff it up flat. You'll be able to shove it up into that to cover that opening so mice can't get in there. You have to cut a little bit out here because there's a support bracket in here that is in the way. So you cut a little bit here to wedge it up behind that support bracket, which will be here. And then you use hot glue gun. Now, you don't need to glue the top, but you want to make sure the top is flush, and you have to look up underneath that this is flush with there's like a ledge there. You'll see. Make sure this is on the top side of the ledge, not on the bottom. And that should be flush with the underneath of the cowling, or where the cowling would go, right? So then you just use some hot glue and you go around and you pin this down. You take a screwdriver, hold it down, put the hot glue on it, let it cool, and you just keep doing that as you go around. And that'll secure that. Mice won't be able to get inside your cabin. Also use a reusable cabin filter that has a mesh screen, right? So K&N makes one. They're pretty expensive, but they're worth it because the mice cannot chew through it. So two solutions to one problem are addressed when you have the cowling off. Put your fresh air intake screen on there, lube up all your linkage, get this assembly apart, widen this. I believe it's a ground. Widen that out a little bit, because one side's got a bent tab on it. Let me try to explain. And the reason why I didn't do the video on the part, because I didn't take the part out. You don't have to take the wiper motor out fully out, because then you gotta remove clips and zip ties that hold the wire to the wiper motor. Just turn it upside down. But anyway, you'll see this thing when you take this cover off. You'll see this thing widen it out, spread it out a little bit, and then pinch these down if they're a little bit loose. But mine were pretty tight, and I didn't fiddle with these because I could feel them as I was lifting the cover. They're really tight. So I just put a little dielectric grease here and here. I didn't put anything on here because didn't need to. Put some dielectric grease on the, I think there's a 5-pin contact in here. But anyway, you'll see. So hopefully this helps some people out. I think what's going on is, I think that ground, or whatever this is, because it grounds, to me, I think it's a ground. It grounds out to the bottom of the body for the circuitry. I think that's a failure point on these things, and not the motor. But if you don't take this apart, you're not going to know. You'll think the motor's bad. It's not the motor. It's this thing. So I was in a hurry. I would have done a video with it in the car, but it's late and I was in a hurry, so I figured I'd just do a little diagram. You start digging into this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So hopefully this helps some people out on the Lexus ct200h 2012 wiper, intermittent wiper issue, and wipers not parking, along with the wipers working erratically. Over and out.